the Washington, not the redacted, not the football team, but the Washington Commanders. They finally have a name that is meh. It's just there. It's so, I don't know. It's just kind of ish there. Like, what do y'all think about the Washington Commanders? Like, what exactly are they commanding? Like, they're commanding something. They're certainly commanding something, but it's not what you think it is. So anyway, for 2021, the Washington Commanders, or when they were known as the Washington Football Team, they were coming off a season where they just won the NFC East with a losing record of 7-9. And they were actually on the verge of an upset over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the eventual Super Bowl champions in Super Bowl 55. They actually managed to make them sweat in that NFC wildcard game at home against the eventual champions and Tom Brady, mind you, with a quarterback that has only had one start to his belt and was barely with the team for most of the season because he's just signed late in Taylor Heineke, and he managed to nearly beat the Tampa Bay Bucks in the playoffs. So you're going in, they went into 2021, looking to try to get better, but unfortunately they could not because they were just getting injuries all around. To Chase Young suffered a torn ACL. Antonio Gibson was not healthy all season long, even though he had some spurts in his second year. And then you trace it all the way back to week 1 when Ryan Fitzpatrick was the starter. They signed him in free agency, and then he gets injured in the second quarter, and he's gone for the rest of the season. So Taylor Heineke takes the reins for pretty much a full season of Washington football, and he was not terrible. He made a lot of erratic decisions, though, and he looked scared at times to throw the football. And so his play was pretty 50-50, and the secondary was kind of trash, to be honest with you, without a pass rush. So any momentum that the Washington football team had in 2020, even though they technically benefited from a pretty crappy division, and especially an injury-riddled Dallas Cowboys. So the Washington football team, their season in 2021 was pretty derailed by all of that, and their hopes of repeating as NFC East champions went down the drain, going 7-10. So for Washington, they didn't command anything in 2021. So they renamed themselves as the Washington Commanders in 2022. Like I said, the name is pretty vanilla. So their goal for 2022 is going to be interesting for them because right now they're in such an interesting spot. They need to have a winning record in 2022. Like, at this point, for me, sure, the ultimate goal is to make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. But for the Washington Commanders, it's just, you gotta win something. You gotta win games. You have to have a winning record. Whether you make the playoffs or not, you gotta win something. Look at the Las Vegas Raiders last year. They went through all that controversy with John Gruden's emails being leaked and the Henry Ruggs situation, and they overcame all that adversity and made the playoffs. And sure, they lost to the first round to the Cincinnati Bengals, but to get to that point, to get through all that crap, it was kind of remarkable. It was really remarkable for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I'm not going to say that Daniel Snyder's terribleness and his guidance will necessarily help the team get there. But, Ron Rivera, the head coach, he has to put something together and at least have a winning record in 2022. So some of the things that they did in the offseason, they re-signed a couple of players. The two most notable ones being J.D. McKissick, who originally was supposed to go to Buffalo, but he changed his mind and decided to stay in the nation's capital. Don't know why you decided to do that, but it's your decision. And they actually got Terry McLaurin, their wide receiver, the number one receiver, to agree to a long-term extension. So that's one less thing to worry about for the Washington Commanders. They had some notable additions in free agency. Notably, on the offensive line, they added a guard by the name of Andrew Norwell from the Jacksonville Jaguars, guard Trey Turner from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that offensive line that was kind of bad in 2021 get some additions in 2022 to hopefully protect their quarterback, whether it's Taylor Heineke or the guys that they traded a couple of mid-round picks for, and that is Carson Wentz. Yes, the Eagles, no, not the Eagles killer, the Washington killer back in 2017. Yes, that Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz coming off a pretty meh season with the Indianapolis Colts gets traded to the Commanders and is back in the NFC East, this time with Washington. Oh, what a twist of fate this has become. So, you lose Ryan Fitzpatrick to retirement, and, well, you already got Carson Wentz now. You lost Brandon Sheriff, one of your key guards in the offensive line, to the Jaguars, but that's why you signed guard Andrew Norwell. And this is not necessarily a loss, but I'm not sure why they're not doing it, is a key part of their secondary is getting Landon Collins, their free safety. He's still out there, unsigned. Maybe it's an injury history. I'm not sure. So in the draft, the Commanders' draft was, I mean, it's so-so. But I'm hearing decent things about wide receiver Jahan Dotson from Penn State. From like the reports I read, he seems like he's having good chemistry with Carson Wentz. And then you get a defensive tackle by the name of Fidarian Mathis from Alabama. So a key piece in that defensive front, led by Chase Young, and maybe ease some pressure off of Young as he continues to ease his way back in from the ACL tear. They also surprisingly added another quarterback in the name of Sam Howell from North Carolina. Don't know why. And most importantly, they added a guard. They added a guard from Tulsa, and his name is Chris Paul. Yes, the Phoenix Suns point guard who came from Tulsa. He went to Phoenix, went to Tulsa, and then made his way to the NFL to go play for the Washington Commanders. Chris Paul said, screw the NBA. I'm going to play on the offensive line, protecting Carson Wentz, beefing up so I can play for the Washington Commanders, America's greatest team ever. Yes, Chris Paul is in the NFL now. No, it's a completely different Chris Paul. So, yes, they drafted a guy similar to the name of the Chris Paul of the NBA. Did you know there's also a Matt Ryan that plays for the Boston Celtics in Summer League? I didn't know that either. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. So, for the Washington Commanders, I think the biggest takeaway of this season is that the fact that, well, they did command the offseason, just for all the wrong reasons. Mainly because, well, of all the sexual harassment allegations against Dan Snyder that has been ongoing since 2018. And things just keep piling up for this team, man. It's Dan Snyder and his stupidity. It's getting insane. So more people are speaking out. Congress is getting involved. They're getting Roger Goodell to testify, and they're trying to get Dan Snyder to testify, and he refused until like recently he offered to appear via video to testify. I'm not sure if Congress accepted it as of like when this episode has been posted, but that's the situation where we're at with the Commanders. I'm not sure what exactly is going to be the end game for Daniel Snyder and this investigation, but it's very serious. These are very serious allegations. And who knows what's going to happen? Like, are the owners actually going to man up? Are the other owners in the NFL actually going to man up and remove him from, like, force him to sell the team? Because he's done a lot of shit. He's done a lot of shit that I personally cannot speak for, because I'm just a guy sitting here. There are plenty of other people more well-informed that can speak on this matter. But all I could say is that these are very serious allegations. And in my opinion, Daniel Snyder has to go. He absolutely has to go. So this could be very interesting a season for the Washington Commanders, because they could be commanding literally everything for the wrong reasons, like all the headlines, all the news, and that could be a very big distraction for them. It could be a very big distraction for them, especially when you're trying to get like Carson Wentz in a groove, because he's certainly in an interesting spot, because this could be his last chance to prove that he can be starting material with like a decent offensive line, and a solid receiving core with Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, and now you got a healthy Antonio Gibson and Curtis Samuel now. So this has to be a season where Washington has to win these games. They have to go at least 9-8 or 10 and whatever. Otherwise, Ron Rivera could get fired. He could be a scapegoat. So looking at some of their key games in 2022, obviously it's the one where Carson Wentz plays his old team, Philadelphia, in week 3, and when they go to Philadelphia in week 10. Wow. Wow. That place is going to be rocking against Carson Wentz. Then you go to Dallas in week 4, and then in Indianapolis, yes, more Carson Wentz booing is going to commence in that game. And then week 9 against the Minnesota Vikings. So by that point, it's going to be like a chapter where do the Commanders stand, like in terms of how they're constructed, like what's their end game, what's their goal? Like, are they going to actually achieve that goal of we're going to at least try to win some of these games in spite of what's going on, like inside that toxic culture. So we're going to see what happens. But overall, like I said, all the Commanders are going to be doing this season is probably commanding for the wrong reasons. But if they want to change that narrative in this coming fall, they got to have a winning record. I know I've been saying it time and time again throughout this portion. They have to have a winning record, because if they don't, whether they miss the playoffs or not, someone is going to get the axe. Someone's going to be getting the axe. And it's certainly it's probably not going to be Dan Snyder until he gets removed. It's going to be somebody else.